This is the big week for DC Comics and Wonder Woman fans. They've finally gotten rid of Clunrad and moved on. Tom King, Wonder Woman #1, Daniel Sampere on art here. There are a lot of things on display here from Tom King as a writer. He knows how to set up action, he knows how to execute it, and he certainly knows how to work with his artists to actually get the best representations of the story that he's trying to tell visually on the page, and that is all present here. At this point, he's a known commodity for DC Comics fans. And either you love the guy or you hate the guy if you've read his comic books. This is absolutely the epitome of a Tom King comic book. In a lot of ways, it distinguishes what readers really are when it comes to DC Comics. If you're somebody that really likes taking chances on characters, doesn't mind changing history or established characteristics of the heroes in the DC Comics universe, and not only just ignoring them, maybe flushing them out or just rewriting them all together, but you want something that would be a cool story. Even if it wasn't a Wonder Woman story, you will likely like this comic book. You will likely be a big Tom King fan. But if you are a DC Comics reader like me, who is very much interested in continuity of character, continuity of universe, continuity of history, stories that actually make sense for the character and the history that they have, you're not going to like Tom King, and you're probably going to come away from Wonder Woman #1 not very satisfied, because this really isn't even a Wonder Woman story. It's not really a Wonder Woman comic book. She does show up at the end, but she's absolutely not even a secondary player in her own titular series. She's the third player in this. The star of the comic book really, I guess, is Sergeant Steele. And then the second star really is the narrator, who's this new Joker-level villain that Tom King said he had established for Wonder Woman. And I think I will wholeheartedly disagree on that. And we'll get to that kind of at the end of the issue itself. If you are interested in Wonder Woman and what makes Diana Prince, this will not be the comic book for you, because it has almost nothing to do with her. And in fact, with most of the story beats that do occur, I couldn't help but think most of the time, I think Wonder Woman would have intervened at this point. I think Wonder Woman would have taken a step up, actually appeared at this point and started making decisions and making the world a better place. But that doesn't happen. She just kind of sits in the background as a secondary player, as somebody that's not even taking an active role in her own story for months at a time, because this thing skips a lot of time. And then there's other events, and I'll get into it, but you're like, where's the Justice League? And in a lot of ways, when I read this, it almost feels like an allegory to 9/11, which kind of feels weird because that happened like 22 years ago. Are you still stuck on it? But you also get the distinct impression, at least I do, I don't know about you guys, but after reading Strange Adventures, after reading Rorschach, and after reading the first issue of Wonder Woman, I get the distinct impression that Tom King did something he's very, very not proud of, was involved in something he wasn't proud of at all in Iraq, that he thinks was very immoral, and he feels really bad about it, and he can't get over it. So we keep getting stories kind of talking about that and what he feels bad about, but he can't actually tell you what he feels bad about because it's likely classified or something. And understand some people might find that intriguing or maybe relatable. Me personally, I was in Afghanistan for a year, and I never did anything illegal. I never did anything wrong. I never did anything really immoral. I do feel bad about a couple of things that happened, but they were completely out of my control. It wasn't like I was doing something to harm somebody in just some outlandishly terrible way. I was out there really protecting people, and you can just kind of tell, like, Tom King did something really fucking heinous. And I wish he would talk to his therapist about this, or maybe the CIA themselves, instead of continuously telling me about it, about how he feels about it, but not actually telling me what he did. So I don't know. It's a weird thing. Let's get into the comic book. Let's start talking about Wonder Woman #1. And while I can be impressed with portions of it and some of the execution, I'm not entirely impressed with it as a Wonder Woman comic itself. We definitely need to talk about the art first by Daniel Sampere. He was working on some of the Injustice comic books back in the day, really got some big breaks on Superman not that long ago. And then he also illustrated Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths, which is, by its very definition, a trash comic book event, but it looked gorgeous. Daniel Sampere is the real deal, ladies and gentlemen. He is one of the best artists in the entire DC Comics stable. He's not quite up there with the Jorge Jimenez yet, but I think he is going to be one of their headliners, and maybe their headliner. But this thing looks absolutely amazing, and it is very Tom King, and you get the 9-panel grids that are very boring, and Daniel Sampere does his damnedest to make it look pretty exciting, inviting, and it's very well done. I definitely want to mention the color artist Tomu Mori on this one. Whenever you change scenes, he changes color palettes, and it's so refreshing. I am so tired of every comic book having their own distinct color palette just for the entire thing. You almost never know when you're changing from one scene to another or when the tone of the scene is changing. And with this color artist, Tomomori, on this comic book, you can absolutely see it. It's really on display throughout the entire comic book. Very well done by Daniel Sampere, all-star performance, and he definitely elevated the work of Tom King in this comic book. Let's talk about what is the catalyst of this Wonder Woman story. There's definitely something that we're missing here, because it starts out, there's a pool hall, and there's a lady shooting pool, and a guy touches her when she goes to shoot, and she takes offense to that. And then he says, I didn't mean to do it. And then he talks about her curves obviously coming onto her. She didn't appreciate that. So she murders him and 18 other guys at this pool hall, which feels like a law of proportionality violation on the part of this new character, Emily. And this is what really sparks off everything. And there has to be more to it than this. She just decided to kill 19 men because a guy touched her while she was playing pool and then came on to her. It doesn't really make sense. There also happened to be 2 women at this pool hall, and they left untouched, which I guess turned this into a terrorist event. And all of a sudden, we go from 0 to 150 for like 3 pages as he fast forwards through months of storytelling that really would have fleshed this out and made it a more interesting story, and probably would have incorporated Wonder Woman and her narrative into this better. So I guess he could get to the part that he thought was going to be interesting. This lone actor in a pool hall killed 19 men. They find out it's an Amazon. They never tell you why they believe it's an Amazon other than that she's tall. So they declare war on Themyscira. They decide that every Amazon needs to leave America. And then all of a sudden, with bipartisan legislation, they like ban Amazons from residing in America and create this new entity that's going to go out there and track them down. And then it gets really, really political, and it's really just boring. Like I said, I think this is supposed to be analogous not only to 9/11, but also, I guess, to illegal immigration. But this goes so far over the top, it's almost like comical. It almost feels like parody, but it's a very serious comic book. And the reason I say that it feels like it's like a commentary on 9/11 is because that event being reported in the news just gets escalated and escalated and escalated. And apparently the entire United States of America just rallies around this and decides they're going to enact these measures and support it. And everyone apparently just hates the Amazons. They just all of a sudden turn on all Amazons because this one lady did one thing one time. And sure, it's a heinous act. It's just hard for me to compare that to 9/11, where you're literally talking about buildings being destroyed and thousands of people being killed like in an instant for the most part. But I'm supposed to believe this. And then it's got this weird rhetoric where this girl, she loves Wonder Woman and she dressed up as Wonder Woman for Halloween, and her dad is just very upset. He says everyone knows these people got away that isn't all American. They just think that one kind of person is better than the other, and that means that they hate the other kind. And with this thing, you see, they really want, like, it's a form of genocide if you know the truth, which I guess there probably would be a buffoon that would go that far. But I find it really difficult to believe that that would ever be the tenor of America. And if this is supposed to be a commentary on illegal immigration, and today that certainly isn't. There's nothing that's ever bipartisan. Everything is partisan as hell. Let's not actually talk to Wonder Woman. And that's like one of the weird parts. Wonder Woman actually doesn't step up and say, hey, listen, I'm your ambassador to the Amazons, or I'm an Amazon, you know me. We don't know why Amelia did this, but this isn't something that we support. Nubia, I guess, doesn't come out and say that. They don't really go against it, and they don't like join the hunt for Amelia, which apparently is happening. Apparently they are trying to track this person down with no effect. And it just fast forwards and ramps up in the matter of pages. And you get all this just weird political stuff that doesn't really make any sense for the story, and certainly doesn't make sense for Wonder Woman, as if she's a coward or somebody that would cower in the shadows while all this was happening and being blamed on the Amazons themselves. It's almost like they took away the agency of Wonder Woman. It seems like almost a very misogynistic take on a Wonder Woman comic book, to be a passenger in her own solo comic book series so you could promote Agent Steel and the Sovereign guy that you're about to meet, and all these opinions that don't make sense in the world that this comic book actually exists. This isn't Black Label. This isn't Elseworlds. And that's really where everything here just falls apart. That and the fact that Wonder Woman really isn't even a major player. They end up creating this thing called Amazon Extradition Entity, because I guess Tom King thought AXE was a good acronym, led by Sergeant Steele. And they even mentioned that last time there was the Amazon's attack event, he was disgraced and embarrassed, and this is almost presented, at least for the first 2/3, is like Sergeant Steele trying to regain his honor after failing so miserably, and you're almost compelled to root for him until he goes a little bit too far. And then all of a sudden, this unit is just tracking down what they say is 300 Amazons living in America. Why would there be 300 Amazons living in America? It doesn't make any sense. I thought they lived on Themyscira and they were warriors and they were training to defend the world and realms and all that kind of thing. And the reason that Diane was special was because she left to enter man's world, human's world, not just man. And that's what made Diane different, because she decided to walk away from paradise, from Themyscira, and go out there and enter something that wasn't quite so pretty and try to do something beautiful for everybody. But she was like really the only one. Sometimes an Amazon or two would enter that world as well, and sometimes they would do bad things. But for the most part, it was just Diane there, and that's why she's really the ambassador to Themyscira. But of course, she's not special in that way either, because we've got Amazons living all over America, and they're being hunted down, and all of a sudden, there's this picture with a government agent like training a rifle on this Amazon lady's kid, and you're supposed to feel something, but everything has gone so fast. He's fast forwarded through all of this, and then you lose all the emotional impact that moment is supposed to have. And then it's followed up with an even bigger moment where one of the Amazons decides she's going to stand up and charges them, and they shoot her with armor-piercing bullets and murder. And you're like, wow, this thing really went from nothing to World War III in a matter of like 8 pages or something like this, and then none of it makes sense. And there's no Diana Prince. There's no Wonder Woman in the story whatsoever. She's like doing nothing. And apparently months upon months have passed since Amelia killed these 19 guys. They haven't found her. They've changed all these laws. They're hunting down Amazons throughout North America, and they're murdering them now if they won't come in peacefully. But Wonder Woman still doesn't do anything because it's the Sergeant Steele story and it's the Sovereign story. And it's just so weird. It's the most Tom King fucking comic book I've ever read in my life. And then you get to the one moment that we all saw, the pages that they released, and this doesn't make sense either. It feels like if Congress passed a law that said every Amazon has to leave America, Diana would probably be like, I think you guys are mistaken and you're fools, and I will change your mind, but I'm going to go peacefully. Not only has there been a law passed and they've been rounding up Amazons all over America, even though it doesn't make any sense, Queen Nubia herself has proclaimed every Amazon is to return to Themyscira. But apparently she has no power anymore. The queen of the Amazons, no one listens to her. They just all stay there, all to get killed and rounded up, even though it doesn't make sense for the history and the culture and the story within the DC Comics universe and the Amazons. And you wonder why people go, man, Tom King is a fucking hack, because he doesn't care about the characters. He doesn't care about the history. He doesn't care about the continuity. He doesn't care about the universe itself. He only cares about the story he wants to tell, because he's very upset about 9/11. He's very upset what he had to take part in while he was in the CIA. He's very upset that his dad left him when he was a kid. So we need to read stories from that point of view. And that's why everyone's so miserable, just like he is. And it never makes sense for the DC Comics universe. This is probably a cool story to be told at Image Comics with some new characters, maybe a Wonder Woman analog that isn't quite Diana Prince, that's a little bit different, that has some similarities to actually facilitate the story that Tom King is trying to tell. That's the problem. He breaks and bends everything around him and his story, rather than bending himself and the story he wants to tell to actually make sense for the character in the universe. And that's the big frustration in all of this. And we do get the big encounter. And of course, Wonder Woman just beats everybody up. And she says, Themyscira is not my home. America's my home. And she breaks Steele's hand because she can't actually lose, I guess, in the first confrontation. God forbid Wonder Woman take an L and make you want to root for the character and make you think, man, this Steel guy is diabolical. He almost killed Wonder Woman in the first issue. This guy is absolutely terrible. No, she's the one that handicaps him. And you're like, I don't even get it. I don't understand what the story is being told here. Where's the Justice League? Why was Wonder Woman sitting in the background the whole time? Why am I rooting for Sergeant Steele this whole thing? And then it turns out she's got the lasso of truth. She puts it on him. And she gets the truth about who's behind all this. She actually talks to Steve Trevor, and he talks about, I could go to jail for treason for this. And then she mentions the name the Sovereign. Apparently the Sovereign has actually been controlling America from the beginning of time. He was on the Mayflower, and he's responsible for everything. And when you look at the design of the character, which is supposed to be the new Joker level villain, he's got the flags above him. He's got red, white, and blue. and he's got symbols of America on his outfit. So you're certainly supposed to think America when you see him. But he's also got robes that are very reminiscent of the KKK, so you know that he's a racist. But he's also got a crown and other artifacts that will remind you of the monarchy, because apparently he doesn't like monarchical rule or whatever. There are also symbols on the robe itself of religion. There's crosses and stuff because he doesn't like religion, apparently. And then on his chest, he's got a lot of medals that kind of remind you of Nazi officers in World War II. When you see their portraits, there are a lot of medals that look exactly like that. He's the symbol of America. He's the symbol of racism. He's the symbol of the monarchy. He's the symbol of religion, and he's a Nazi as well. And to boot, he's holding the lasso of lies, and it feels so over the fucking top. Like, oh my goodness. I'm just happy he doesn't have Trump's face on him, because I imagine this is who Tom King believes this guy to be. He's the one that's been pulling the strings forever. You know, the lasso of truth versus the lasso of lies. And he's been manipulating everything behind the scenes. And this is supposed to be your Joker level villain. This old, rich, white, aristocratic guy. Wow, that's like really groundbreaking stuff. We haven't seen this portrayed in comic books in the last decade. In every fucking new villain that's been introduced. I don't think he understands why Joker's a cool villain. I don't think he understands why today Joker is still impactful and popular with people, because this ain't it. I understand you don't like Trump. I understand that you have a lot of white guilt and you think old rich white guys having any type of power is always going to be bad. But my goodness, just go to the therapist and stop writing comic books. That's the thing that we all need to remember. And that is my review of Wonder Woman #1 from Tom King and Daniel Sampere. I will give it a 2 out of 5 because the art is very, very good. And there is a competent story to be told in there. It's just the characterization's all off. The universe is all off. The reactions are all off, and he skipped through what could have been some of the most interesting story about this, so he get to the part where she becomes a rebel and gets put on the most wanted list. Normally, Tom King comes out like a house of fire. Normally, he comes out with a bang, and you start questioning yourself whether or not you were right about Tom King all along. This time, you know that you were right about Tom King all along. If you like Tom King, if you like the fact that he doesn't care about the characters and the universe and the history and characterization and stuff like that, but you like the stories that he tells, you're going to like this comic book. But if you like Wonder Woman because you're invested in Diana Prince, if you like DC Comics because you're invested in the universe, if you like the DC universe because you're invested in the history, you're probably not going to like this so much. Unfortunately, this is an enormous, and I do mean enormous, step up for Wonder Woman, mired under Clunrad for so long. In fact, that is really bad event where Nubia became Queen of the Amazons, where they killed off Diana Prince's mom. And I must say that was probably the bottoming out of Wonder Woman, to where a comic book like this is an enormous step up. If you don't remember this or you don't know about it, I actually broke down how Try of the Amazons went so bad and why it was just an awful, awful, awful Wonder Woman event. Definitely check it out right here. There's also a link in the video description.